Hello friends, it's Kayla. Welcome to the finale of this series. You can thank my channel members for voting for this to be the next vlog that I filmed. The wrap up, the finale to buying books drunk versus high. 1 year ago, I filmed this video. It was ridiculous. I also did a follow-up a couple months later where I bought book accessories in the same states. I asked you in my original video which selection of books I made, the ones where I was drunk or the ones that I was high, which ones were more intriguing to you, and you selected for me to do a vlog where I read the books that I picked when I was stoned. And this is the most success I've ever had from a video. These were like all 5 stars and it was a win for all. But now it has been highly requested that I do the final follow-up. I wrap up this series and we check out the books that I bought drunk. The thing about pitting these two versions of me against each other is high me already won. There's no way for me to do better with this stack. I can only tie. Also, in the accessories video, if you recall, drunk me was the one who bought weird, nonsensical things, and high me is the one who redesigned my entire bathroom and bought a lot of really fun accessories. So I'm sorry, but I'm already calling it that high me is just the greater being. But here are the 3 books that I have to read for this video. We have The Centaur's Wife by Amanda Leduc, Only Mostly Devastated by Sophie Gonzalez, and The Boy Who Met a Whale by Nizrana Farouk. High me was concerned about covers. These were all cover buys. Did not know the plot before I purchased them. Full price. Drunk me was very task oriented. You might recall me looking on Indigo, finding some very interesting, questionable material before stumbling upon The Centaur's Wife and feeling like it was my duty to read. I selected this because I was going through a folder on my phone where I had screenshots of random books that I heard about. I remembered that this was a Greece retelling, so I picked it up. And then I played a round of GeoGuessr where the country that I guessed the closest to, I had to read a book from that country. I landed on Sri Lanka. I guessed India, I believe, and I ended up looking up some book lists and finding The Boy Who Met a Whale. Oh, and I accidentally purchased 2 of these because I was inebriated, but I donated the second one last summer to a little free library. So now the time has come for me to check these out. I'm gonna read them in the order I just told you. Why not? We're gonna start with adult, go to YA, finish with middle grade. I have a pretty busy week full of lots of appointments. I'm actually gonna try to read each of these in a day because my calendar is filling up with things to do. So, The Centaur's Wife, let's begin. Okay, so last night I filmed a little members only drunken reading vlog, which I knew wouldn't go well, and exactly why I didn't plan it to be within this vlog and like for everyone. But in it, basically I tried to read drunk, and I read the first chapter of each of these. And then I went on to read something else, took a bath, read a little bit of something else for another video, had a little drunken rant. So I'm gonna start today with The Centaur's Wife. Amanda Leduc wrote a nonfiction book called Disfigured that I really appreciate and enjoyed. It talks about disability in general and representation and how people are portrayed in media, fairy tales and stuff like that, and also her own experience with cerebral palsy. And then in this one, her fiction debut, I believe our main character has cerebral palsy as well. So the book kicks off with kind of an apocalyptic scenario. There's a group of characters and they don't really know what's going on, and they come into contact with another group of characters. There's a lot of people being introduced right now, and then we also have this little prologue that I'm sure will come maybe interspliced in here where we're following centaurs. There are these babies born that are like seen as monsters and they're run out of town, and I'm assuming they like go live on this mountain. And then the book talks about how our main character Heather, her dad took her up the mountain on a quest to heal her legs damaged at birth. They encountered a centaur and now Heather's constantly looking back to the mountain. So I still don't know if most of it's going to be like with this group of people or if she's going to like enter this society of centaurs and live with them. Don't really know the tone of it yet, but we'll see how it goes today. I think I'm about at the halfway point now, and it's a really gloomy, rainy, it even snowed a little bit kind of day, so I just feel like I'm in a funk. And my book's not going well, so it's just, I feel even more in a funk. Don't think I really get the point of the story yet. It's reminding me a bit of A History of Wild Places by Shea Earnshaw, which, if you recall, was the first book I read of the year, and it was 1 star. And this has a similar tone of like a community. It's not the same story like whatsoever, but just with a little bit of magic, and a lot of things are kind of unexplained and ominous, and people are constantly just like wondering what's really going on. Some people feel really part of the community, some people don't trust others in the community, and it's kind of okay. Actually, my biggest issue is that it's about, and this isn't the book's problem, it's like a lot of exhausted mother content. Heather has twins, and rightfully so. In an apocalypse, she's exhausted. She should be exhausted either way. But I just feel like that's so much of the book, is just like we're listening to her walking around with her twins are crying, she's so tired. Her and her husband can't really connect anymore because of the twins. There was this one really beautiful line about like how they're going through all this stuff together, but instead of reaching for each other in every moment when they should, they each naturally like reach for one of the twins, which I just thought is a really painful thing that definitely feels accurate to parenthood sometimes. Unfortunately, I don't have a super good grasp of fairy tales in general. So like there's a chapter on the Goose Girl, and we do this a couple times, where we're visiting clearly like established characters, and she's including these little fables for reasons. I understand, I think, the general reason, but maybe not the overarching theme yet. But since I'm not familiar enough with them, I don't really know like if the story that she's telling here in these 4 pages of the Goose Girl, if that's the original story, or if she's taking a piece of the story for some reason, or if she's rewriting the story, and what I'm really supposed to take away from it. I do like the idea that we don't fully know what's going on in the world. We know that everywhere in the world things are going wrong, like something's happening, earthquakes, meteor showers. It seems like everything, but it seems like nothing is clear. And when that is an apocalyptic scenario in a lot of the books that I read and love, I enjoy that because I think it's realistic. When you get cut off from technology and media, you are stuck in your own little bubble, and you're constantly thinking like maybe the next community over is completely fine and it's just isolated to us, but we'll never know until we go outside of it. But it doesn't seem safe to go outside of it, so everyone's just like bopping around living their normal lives, and people are trying to hoard food, and people are trying to make decisions for the entire community, and the dynamics like should be interesting, but I'm struggling with it. And I feel like this is a theme of me with my reading, and I don't know how to pinpoint it yet, but I need to figure it out, because there's something about like a commune or a community group of people like I didn't like Under the Dome. I didn't like A History of Wild Places, and just my analytical brain wants to find a reason to explain why sometimes this works for me and sometimes it doesn't. But maybe it's just the book itself. I still don't know where the story's going, if we're going to completely stay in this community, if it's going to get more Centaur based, because it barely is now. I'm not liking it a lot, but I'm excited to see where it goes. Let me kick off this clip with an apology just for my general lack of energy. You can blame my uterus. And also, I think I'm getting a cold, but also I spent all day yesterday cleaning, so it could just be a lot of dust. I finished The Centaur's Wife. I didn't like it. I had such high hopes for this. I actually really just did not imagine myself not liking it, especially because my mom read it recently and she didn't like it. And a couple other books I've lent to her, like The House in the Dark in the Woods, I thought this might have similar kind of vibes as far as the things that she didn't like about it. And sometimes our reading taste really aligns and sometimes it doesn't, and things are just a little too like weirdly magical for her. I don't really know how to explain it. But yeah, this was kind of a mess, you guys. I don't think the book knew what it wanted to do. I think it should have been a short story. It got confusing when we went to the Centaur stuff and the dynamics within that group. And I actually think this book would have been better if the main group of characters were the Centaurs instead. And then we just got like one human that was coming up to them in the mountain, and we got to learn about everything that way, because just like the way that the world ending is kind of explained, I obviously don't want to spoil it, but like there are these concepts that I really enjoy. But when you bring in the fact that the centaurs are there, it kind of debunks like some things that the book is trying to say about why the world is ending. It really just lost me. And then the main storyline of all the characters like helping each other and trying to like build a new community and have this new kind of government, it was just a lot of repetition. It was the same arguments, the same scenes. Nobody was happy. It was just like complaining for hundreds of pages. And like, that is a realistic scenario when the world is ending and nobody knows what's going on and you're starving. But like, there was no reprieve from that. At no point was it like fun or romantic, or there was no other feeling than unhappiness throughout the whole thing, which like, again, makes sense. It does make sense. But when you're introducing all of these fantastical ideas and you're saying like Heather and this centaur have this connection from her childhood, it was like, okay, so once they see each other, like then there'll be some sort of feelings besides just like misery, right? But no. I think when you pair this with her nonfiction book, there are at least a lot of things you can take away from her goal of how the characters are treated. And there are really powerful things that the book is saying about Heather and her disability and the ways that she's been treated and the way that she deserves to be treated. But beyond just like saying a couple like great things, that's not enough to like carry a plot. I can see the intent that she had with it. I can feel what she wanted to do with it. And then I just think 200 pages of randomness had to be in there for it to be a long enough novel to be published. So I'm giving it 2 stars and I'm really fucking bummed about it. Good morning, friends. Today's kicking off with an eye doctor appointment, which is why I have no mascara on my eyeballs. What I'm going to read today is Only Mostly Devastated by Sophie Gonzalez, and I need to figure out if it's supposed to be a Grease retelling or just inspired by Grease, because that is going to affect how I critique the book. I've heard a lot of people say like it's not Grease, and like obviously it's not Grease, but I don't know if people were expecting it to be Grease or just be more inspired by Grease than it is. So last night Rob and I watched Grease together so I could refresh my memory. It's both as good as I remember from my teen years and as questionable as I expected it to be. So let's see what it says about Grease. Grease is not mentioned on the back. It's not mentioned in any of the blurbs, but inside it says it's a heartfelt queer update on Grease. And then the power of this fun Grease retelling is that it normalizes the spectrum of sexual orientation. Though Gonzalez is Australian, didn't know that, she gets most US details right in this Grease reboot. Most US details right? I don't know, if I was an author, I don't think I would want a blurb that said I got most things right. I like the word reboot. So I think it has to have, if you want to call this a Grease reboot, it has to have the summer fling. It has to have, which it seems like it does, characters who don't know that they're going to end up going to the same school, and then they end up going to the same school. I think you need to have the same friendship groups, and I'm excited to pick out which characters are which character in the movie. And then I don't know what else I would need. I think a good diner scene, a good school dance. Hopefully we go to the drive-in or at least the movies. I wonder if we'll have another school as like the rival and there will be some conflict. Anyway, I'm gonna kick this off as soon as I'm out of my appointment and I'll give you an update. My eye appointment went well. Thank you for asking. I went to a new eye doctor who I really enjoy for the first time, and their office is just very cool, and they have all of this interesting technology, and he literally showed me the inside of my eyeball, which I didn't think I wanted to see, but it was pretty cool. There are street sweepers flying up and down my street. Sorry for the noise. But that's a helicopter now. My neighborhood's really bumping today. If you've been following my eyeball saga, which I don't know why you would be, I have been having some issues with my contacts recently. I think I've talked to you about how just like things are blurry and it's weird. I thought I needed a new prescription, but it turns out I had a bad batch of contacts. Who knew that was even a thing? So glad I got that figured out. That's what went well today. Contacts ordered. Awesome. What's not going well is the book. What to say about this? It's so interesting how No, I'm doing the same thing that I did with The Centaur's Wife, which is when I don't like a book, I start to think about the other books that are similar that I don't like and try to come to a conclusion about my reading. I don't know why I'm like that. But so this is the type of YA book that I read and I'm like, oh, like I don't like YA. YA isn't for me. Like, it's so fucking cheesy the way that these characters are communicating. The dialogue is terrible. And every time I read a YA book and I feel this way, that's when I go, I don't like YA. YA contemporary, not for me. But then I remember that I just read an incredible YA a couple weeks ago. So no, I can't just lump together a genre. It's the book. I'm 60 pages in. What I will say is I like that this is integrating certain things that the Grease movie like doesn't do. Like parents aren't really involved. And we don't get to see like Danny and Sandy's summer together. We get a little bit of it and they talk about it, but what's missing a little bit is like flashbacks to like their connection. And like watching the movie this time, I was thinking about it and I was like, wouldn't it be nice if we got moments beyond just like the physical attraction they obviously felt for each other on the beach? Like, what if we got little moments where they actually did activities together over the summer? And that's kind of what we get in here. There are these italicized short little moments where they're interacting and then they like meet Will's parents at one point. Have I told you the plot of this? Ollie is the one who was visiting for the summer and he was supposed to go back to his part of the country. He's the Olivia Newton-John. Oh, Ollie, Olivia. And then we have Will, John Travolta. I thought maybe there was something going on with the names that was implying something. Oh, Tavares. Yeah, Tavares, Travolta, Oliver, Olivia. And Will is the one who already goes to the school. He has all the friends and he is not out. And unfortunately, Ollie outs him to a group of girls, the pink ladies, as it were, though they're not like named that or anything. And he's like, I had this summer fling with this guy, and they're like, what's his name? And he goes, Will, and they're like, oh my god. I'm enjoying it because I like being able to make the connections and see how things are referenced, and like you can definitely see what characters are who, which is fun. But the book itself is just not good. Hi, me again. I'm in the same corner. I have done many things with my day, but I find myself back here after like 8 hours. To update you on my progress in here, I can't believe that this story is not over yet. A lot of books lead up to a big event, so it's like a wedding or a prom, a school dance or something. And this one I thought was leading up to this dance, but we just had the dance and now there's almost 100 pages still left. And I felt like that could have been the final scene. Like, we really could have come to all of these realizations. These guys could have finally gotten together and it could have been over at this point. I'm so tired of reading about these characters. This is one of my least favorite couples. I just don't think they're good for each other. I think that our main character, Ollie, is manipulative. He is rude. I don't even really think that he likes Will. Like, they don't seem to like each other at all. They constantly talk about liking each other, but they're always like arguing. At least in Grease, like, it's a romance. Like, they are together even though it's messy. They're never together. Will has said pretty plainly that he has no interest in coming out, and that's not going to happen for him right now. And Ollie refuses to accept that. Sometimes he pretends to be accepting of it, but he's just like a giant hypocrite. And I think it's fine to build a complex main character, but they have to have some self-awareness. Like, I love a character who is messy, but they have to be aware, or the author has to be aware that they're messy and like go with that. But I just have this feeling in the last 5 pages, he's gonna have this realization that like he's been unfair to Will and he needs to be more accepting. And at no point are we actually gonna get to see them together. So it just kind of feels like, what's the point of the book? I think that the parental interactions are interesting. I think that people could feel emotionally connected because his aunt is sick, I'm sure is going to die at the end. That's probably going to be the catalyst to the boys like ending up together. I'm sure there's going to be like this moment where they need each other. But like in the meantime, it's been 200 pages of unhappiness, just like the last book I read. And listen, I'm down for a downer. I read sad books all the time, but I go into them knowing they're gonna be bummer books. Like, this is a romance, or I thought it was, but it absolutely does not feel like that. There are Grease references, like a lot of song titles, which is fun. We have actually gotten quite a few scenes that I was expecting, and you can most definitely see different characters and who they're supposed to be from the movie, and I think that's fun. You know, a little humanization of Rizzo, a little redemption for Jan. I feel good about some representation moments we've gotten, but yeah, I wish it was over. It's now the end of the week, but I'm still calling this my weekend vlog. I hope you don't mind. I just don't know what else to call it. I'm not gonna call it my drunk vlog because, like, that's misleading. So we're going into the weekend with my last book. This was a 2. It was a kind of a flop. It's a bummer because there are things that I appreciate in here, things that are changed from like the origin material that I like respect. But as a story overall, it's just like not a great one for me. I cannot get on board with the relationship. I don't think that the characters are good, and I don't think they acknowledge enough like how they're not good for each other. While interesting things are said, at no point was I like having a good time. All the realizations happened too late. I don't want to call it predictable because like this isn't a thriller. It shouldn't matter if I can predict like anything that happens, but I could, and that made it a bit dull. So yeah, today's appointment is for my hair. This morning I went and I stopped at my favorite farm and I got this super cute variety of eggs. So I'm gonna make some breakfast, have some coffee, and then start on this before I have to leave. Makes you forget about all types of things. You remind me of the Arizona thunder. Satisfy the times and make you wonder about the bigger picture in your life. The simple times in the Arizona thunder. The Arizona thunder tonight. Endless roads to the horizon, past the oasis, it's all behind you. Mirage of agua, the stars above you, the creatures' days to nocturnal days. I feel like picking this for my last book was actually a really good decision, just because I can't imagine this not being good. Like, when have I ever rated a middle grade low? I think it'll be a fun like adventure story. So it kicked off with this boy. He was on the beach. There were sea turtles. It was a really cute scene. And then another boy like washes up on the beach and he has like abandoned a ship that he was on, or rather escaped a ship that he was on, and now there are some people chasing him. And there's also been the introduction of like a special dagger that has been stolen that they want to find. So I think it's going to be an adventure story. Right now they don't really know if they can trust each other. The boy on land's name is Rozzy and his sister is Shifa, and she seems to be a pretty important part of the story too. And then the boy on the ship, it's spelled Z-H-E-N-G. I listened to the audiobook and it sounded like Chang, so I'm glad I have the audiobook to correct how I would have pronounced that. And since I haven't done a lot of audiobook listening recently at all, I tried to listen to the audiobook of Only Mostly Devastated, and the narrator was kind of insufferable. But that was also listening to it on like 2 times speed, so who knows. This audiobook is quite enjoyable and it's pretty short, so I'm gonna drive into town as soon as I finish my coffee, get my hair done, and probably by the time I get home, I will have completed the audiobook, and then I can review it for you. Okay, hair is done. Just a little, you know, neutralizer, a little bit of a bang. Once I have my appointment, I think in June, I'm gonna like bleach it out and go bright copper again. But right now I just needed a little maintenance to hold me over. And now I'm gonna do some obligatory stops at the thrift stores that I frequent, because that's what I do. The rare occasion that I go into Kelowna. This is going fine. I read a little bit of it. Not a lot is really happening. These kids are being chased by these 2 men, and that's just kind of all the story is, like them evading them, them running away, the kids kind of losing track of each other, finding each other, being reunited. Yeah, it's okay. I have 30 pages to go, so I'll probably listen to the audiobook again as I drive home, and then I can update you with my final thoughts. Okay, it's Saturday now. I finished the book. I forgot to update you yesterday. I was filming things. I was doing hockey. We have a hockey tournament going on. It went from being super sunny yesterday to absolutely pouring rain. It's so foggy today. It's gloomy. Everything is dark. I'm trying to film some other things and it's just not going great for me. But a couple things I picked up from the thrift store. Found Skeleton Crew, which is exciting, and this book called A Bad Day for Sunshine. I think it was a good day for thrifting for me. I'm preparing right now to film this series where I go through every single thing on my TBR, and there's something about organizing those books and just looking at them all that going to the thrift store after, I feel like I reined myself in much more than usual because I was just very confronted with how many books I own. So I almost picked up a couple things just because like I know people talk about them, even if I'm not particularly interested in them. I just have this need when I see something for just a couple dollars to be like, well, I might read it one day, but I think I did well. So you can look forward to a book haul on my birthday. One thing that I didn't tell you is that I did read a part of this with Liam, and he just wasn't particularly interested in it enough to continue. So I read it almost entirely by myself. And in the end, I think I'm giving it a 3. Like, it's a middle grade that I probably won't think much about in the future. I think if I did get to read it with Liam and he was interested, I might have rated it higher for the experience, because some things that came of this is there are some good like conversations to be had, and I think because this is so action-based and there's a couple different characters and they're constantly making decisions, there is this opportunity to pause and discuss like, what would you have done in this situation, or why do you think this character is acting this way? But compared to the other middle grade kind of adventure stories that I've read as an adult, that let's fully recognize again and again and again and again, so nobody gets mad at me, I'm not the intended audience here. We all know that. For me, it was a 3, but if I look at the Goodreads, it's getting a lot of 5s. So I could also say it's a 5 objectively, because I know other people who it's intended for have enjoyed it. How do you rate middle grade? It's so confusing. I think it's very action-packed. I think that the villains aren't like too villainous. It's not too scary, but Liam and I do like a little more high stakes and books that have like slower parts and faster parts. And this was just like action, 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 and kind of repetitive, like running away, finding each other, running away, where are the villains, running away. I would say it's a good story and I recommend it. I think I recommend all of these in the end to somebody out there, but I wasn't the perfect reader for any of these. And if you want to say that because I went into them thinking they weren't going to be great, that's why they weren't great. But also people will tell me that if I think a book's going to be great and it's not, they'll say it's because my expectations were too high. So who knows the psychology of reading and enjoying books. None of these were wins for me, which is a bummer, naturally, because don't we all want to love the books that we read? Was it worth it? Yes, because I got to wrap up the series. But we can now definitively know in our hearts that High Kayla has better taste than Drunk Kayla. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this vlog. Again, there's a little spin-off one that's just as poor, I would say, as this one. But if you want more of me, I really appreciate your support of my channel, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye!